Your blood sugar might be spiking every single day, and it has nothing to do with sugar at all. Most seniors are told to just watch their carbs and leave it there. But that's only half the story. Think about this for a second. Do you get a heavy, sluggish feeling about an hour after dinner? An energy crash mid afternoon that coffee doesn't fix? Waking up in the middle of the night for no clear reason? Or needing a nap just to get through the day? These aren't just getting older, they can be your blood sugar talking. By the end of this video, you'll know 5 everyday habits, most of them having nothing to do with food, that can quietly steady your blood sugar throughout the day. One of them takes less than 15 minutes, and almost nobody does it at the one moment that matters most. Here's something researchers at George Washington University found and published in the journal Diabetes Care. In older adults, a 15-minute walk after a meal controlled blood sugar over 24 hours just as well as one 45-minute walk, and walking after dinner specifically was the most powerful of all. Timing, it turns out, matters as much as what's on your plate. Let's start there. Dinner is usually the largest meal of the day, and it's the one most people sit still after right before bed when the body is least equipped to clear that glucose from the bloodstream. This is the exact window that George Washington University researchers studied. A short walk in the 30 minutes after eating, especially after dinner, blunted the blood sugar rise more effectively than a single longer walk earlier in the day. The reason comes down to muscle. When you walk, your leg muscles pull glucose out of the bloodstream to use as fuel without needing as much insulin to do it. As we get older, our insulin response naturally slows down a bit, so giving your muscles a direct, physical way to clear that sugar becomes even more valuable. You don't need anything intense. A slow, comfortable 10 to 15-minute walk around the block, the yard, or even pacing indoors while watching TV is enough to make a measurable difference. If dinner is your biggest meal, this is the single highest leverage moment of your day to move even just a little. After your evening meal, aim for a gentle 10 to 15-minute walk before you sit down for the night. If mobility is a concern, even standing and doing light chores in the kitchen for those same minutes can help more than staying seated. Many seniors, especially those eating alone or with a smaller appetite, drift into long gaps between meals, skipping breakfast, then eating a bigger lunch or dinner to compensate. Long gaps followed by a large meal can create a bigger blood sugar swing than the same food eaten in smaller, steadier amounts throughout the day. This isn't about eating more often out of habit, it's about avoiding the extremes. A body that goes 6 or 7 hours without food, then receives a large plate all at once, tends to see a sharper rise in blood sugar than one that receives smaller, more evenly spaced meals. For many people, this simply means not skipping breakfast or splitting a large dinner into a modest dinner plus a small balanced snack later in the evening. It's a small shift in structure, not a new diet. Try to eat something modest within an hour or two of waking, and avoid gaps longer than about 5 hours between meals during the day. If dinner tends to be your biggest meal, consider trimming the portion slightly and having a small protein and fiber snack, like a few nuts or a small yogurt, an hour or two later instead. It's easy to think of blood sugar as something only affected by food and movement, but sleep plays a quiet, powerful role too. Poor or short sleep the night before is associated with the body being less responsive to insulin the following day, meaning the same meal can affect your blood sugar more after a rough night's sleep than after a good one. This becomes especially relevant for seniors, since sleep often becomes lighter or more fragmented with age, frequent waking, trouble falling back asleep, or simply fewer hours overall. The body doesn't fully separate sleep from metabolism, they're closely linked systems. You don't need a perfect 8 hours to see a benefit. Consistency tends to matter more than any single ideal number. Going to bed and waking around the same time each day helps regulate the hormones involved in both sleep and blood sugar control. Keep a consistent bedtime and wake time even on weekends. If nighttime waking is a regular issue, mention it to your doctor. It may be worth addressing directly, since it can be quietly affecting more than just how rested you feel. When the body perceives stress, whether it's a stressful phone call, financial worry, or just a tense morning, it releases hormones like cortisol that are designed to raise blood sugar quickly, giving you fuel for a fight or flight response. That response made sense for short bursts of physical danger. For ongoing everyday stress, it can mean blood sugar stays elevated longer than it needs to. This is one of the most overlooked pieces of the picture because it doesn't show up on a nutrition label or a grocery list. Two people can eat the exact same meal, and the more stressed person may see a more pronounced blood sugar response. The goal isn't to eliminate stress that's not realistic for anyone. It's about having small, reliable ways to bring the body back down from a stress response during the day rather than staying keyed up for hours at a time. Build in 2 or 3 short reset moments during the day, a few minutes of slow breathing, sitting quietly, or stepping outside. Even 5 minutes can help bring stress hormones back down before they compound. Here's a habit that costs nothing and takes no extra time: the order in which you eat what's on your plate. Research on meal sequencing suggests that eating vegetables and protein before the starchy or higher carbohydrate parts of a meal rather than eating everything together or carbs first can lead to a smaller blood sugar spike after eating. The thinking behind this is that fiber and protein eaten first can slow how quickly carbohydrates are absorbed afterward, softening the rise in blood sugar rather than blunting it entirely. It's not about restriction, it's about sequence. For a typical dinner plate, say chicken, vegetables, and rice, this simply means starting with a few bites of vegetables and protein before moving to the rice, rather than mixing everything together from the first bite. At your next few meals, try eating the vegetables and protein on your plate first, saving the bread, rice, or pasta for a few minutes into the meal. It's a small, no cost adjustment you can start at your very next meal. So, to recap, an after dinner walk to help clear glucose when it matters most, spacing your meals to avoid long gaps and big swings, protecting your sleep, giving yourself small moments to reset from stress, and simply changing the order you eat your food. None of these require a new diet or a big lifestyle overhaul, just a few small shifts to how you already eat and move. As always, check with your doctor before making changes to your diet or routine, especially if you're managing diabetes or taking medication that affects blood sugar. If this was helpful, I'd love for you to subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and let me know in the comments which of these 5 surprised you the most.